VCTV. We just finished a great episode talking all about what is happening with us as consumers. What has changed? What do things look like going forward? As we've now started shifting almost all of our purchases, both general to food to unique or niche products on e-commerce. This whole world that we just teased a little bit now has exploded. We talked about how masks alone on SD represented almost $350 million, that niche products in areas of SD and Shopify along all the way to the Amazons of the world are exploding. But now we're shifting that a little bit to talk about the money side. Let's talk about fintech. Let's talk about payments, contactless payments, to insurance, to microloans, to so much that's happening in that space. But then we're going to talk about blockchain. We're going to talk about where this technology that we all love, including myself, where does this technology play a role in all this? At an infrastructure layer to the cross or the intersection. We're going to talk a little bit about digital currencies. We're going to talk a little bit about decentralized finance, maybe some yield farming, as I teased out yesterday. We're going to talk about where all of this stuff is at, even central bank digital currencies. Why is that important? We have countries and governments around the world focused on these technologies, pushing these technologies into their everything and down to us as consumers and citizens. That's big, that's impactful, that's going to make and break how we look at investments in this area as investors. Are we looking at picks and shovels? Are we looking at infrastructure? Are we looking at apps or decentralized apps, also known as dApps? Or are we looking at how those payments, how that infrastructure connects, that plumbing? Are we looking at layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, level 4, layer 5, where we get connected back to us as consumers when it comes to blockchain? As you can see, there is so much to talk about. We had news this morning of more installations, more announcements. Dapper Labs just put in $12 million in new funding. There's more companies, there's tokenization, there's everything. If you can't tell I'm passionate, get ready, because everyone else here is just, if not more passionate than I am of this space. And as we do here in every episode of VCTV, thank you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, give us a thumbs up, click subscribe, reach out. Elena, the LA Token team, and myself would love to hear from you. Love to hear what else we can add, what else we can do. If you'd like to be on the show, thank you, Irina. If you'd like to be on the show as an investor, we'd love to have you. Tons of stuff I'm sure you have to share. Ton of investments, lessons learned, war stories. Come on, we'd love to hear from entrepreneurs. You want the chance to pitch us and pitch the audience? Guess what? You can do so. Reach out. We'd love to have you on the show. Now, Elena, and to the entire LA Token team, a huge thank you for bringing VCTV possible to your screen, your devices, anywhere you may be in the world. Let's get started. I'm Kyle Ellicott, your host. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome. I keep pointing to John, so I'm going to just start in that direction because I've got EdTV View. For those that don't know what EdTV is, take a little lesson learn on your Thursday night. Check out Netflix. John, welcome to the show. A little introduction, background for those who don't know you, joining our previous episodes as well. You're on mute, my friend. That was the one rule I forgot to give everybody. Mute, not talking, unmute when you aren't talking. You're up, sir.
Sorry, rookie mistake. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm John Whaley. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Unify ID. Previous to that, I founded another company that got acquired about 5 years ago. And before that, I was at Stanford. I did my PhD there, and I taught there as well. So great to be back on the show.
Wonderful. Even though it was a rookie mistake, you gave the shortest introduction and the most concise we've had. So congratulations on that. I'll even give you a little emoji, a little golf clap. Ken, welcome back. It's been some time. You are a grandmaster in the fintech space, which most don't know, but I'll tee you up. Intro and background.
Hey, Kyle, great to see you again. Thanks for having me on. So Ken Kruszka, founder and CEO of Snapcheck. We are eliminating paper checks and moving businesses over that digital divide into the world of electronic transactions. By way of my background, I've been, as Kyle said, in the fintech world before there was a fintech word for about 18 years now. Some on the traditional side, some in the startup world, consumer, business to business. So looking forward to touching on all these subjects and more. Thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely. And Gary, welcome back. It's been a whole 15 minutes, not even maybe 30 seconds since I've seen you last, but you've got a lot of experience in the space. And we talk about your experience in AI, but you've got a ton happening in this space. So welcome back, my friend. Little intro and background.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, it's been 15 minutes. I see you more than my wife. So it's great. Anyhow, yeah, so my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in startups for over 30 years. I'm an investor. I've done an IPO on NASDAQ. I've started, that company was sold, Click Software was on the original team, sold for a little over $1 billion in August of last year. I started a company called Eva with a billionaire from Russia who lives in Silicon Valley 4 years ago. And it's now one of the top 10 AI companies in HR tech. So I just love this stuff. I love AI. I've told Kyle many times, I've written over 60 articles in the last year. I'm writing, 2 to 4 a week. I just love this stuff. So I'm interested in how AI can be applied across multiple vertical markets. I'm particularly interested in areas like unsupervised artificial intelligence and ladder networks, variational autoencoders, of really the crust of it. So anyhow, that's why I'm here. I appreciate it. Thank you, Kyle.
I love it. Happy to have you. Next up, before we get to our newest guest, Crypto Superwoman. If you've never met her, you haven't followed her already on social media, she drops knowledge left to right, up and down, everywhere. You should follow. Crypto Superwoman. I'm giving her the credit. Definitely check it out. Irina, welcome back to the show. You know the drill.
Thank you. I feel like you called me and I just won a lottery or something. Yeah, Hi guys. My name is Irina Litchfield. Many know me as Crypto Superwoman through online. I'm founder of Lumeria. It's a platform that is dedicated to creating space as an asset class, basically connecting funding to space industry, all space industry, global space industry. So that's what I do. I also have a fintech consulting firm, Blockchain Cube, that specializes in blockchain integration into traditional finance. So if you have a already functioning traditional bank, or you are looking to start a licensed bank or exchange, everything that's basically comes from traditional world, making sure you're integrating blockchain into that. I'm also advisor for Space Fund. It's an early stage VC fund, a hedge fund in New York, crypto hedge fund, and a couple others too. I think that's plenty for today.
As I said, ladies and gentlemen, she's got knowledge to drop left and right. Definitely follow her, follow all of us, but definitely check out Crypto Superwoman. Without further ado, our newest and latest guest. I have got tons of energy, Elena. I don't know what our last episode did, but let's rock. Milton, welcome back to the show, or welcome to the show. My apologies. Little intro background.
Thank you, Kyle. I very much appreciate being on. So I'm an investor in digital assets since early 2017. I've been investing my time working with and learning from industry leaders around the world for the past 3 years. And as founder of Bridging Networks, I have been providing strategic solutions to entrepreneurs and businesses around the globe. And I also specialize in OTC with Bitcoin.
Wonderful. All right, audience, we've got a very diverse panel for you today. And how this is going to work, we're going to go through a few different questions, talk about where everything is. We're going to see where it goes, because there's too much happening in this space. By the time we finish the episode, everything we've mentioned probably will have advanced. Things are changing in an exciting way so quickly. I mentioned earlier there was a new fundraising announcement this morning. Coca-Cola has made big partnership announcements earlier this week. There is everything and anything happening between blockchain and fintech. If anything, they are two of the areas we've seen more digitization than almost anywhere else in the last 6 months. I will go out there and say that, okay? I'll take that stance. This is exciting because as artificial intelligence, as Gary has mentioned, this plays a role in everything that we do. Fintech, if you look at the traditional fintech companies, so many of them have moved into the digitized world. And some would say all companies are looking to become a fintech company, which I can't wait to hear Ken and John's comments on that. But from a blockchain perspective, we're really starting to see how enterprise, which is important, how enterprise is pushing this technology forward where it makes sense into their infrastructures. Either they're talking or not talking about it. That's very, again, important to us as consumers and how we may be further protected or get transparency into things we never thought we could before. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the current state of things. Where are things in these industries? What's happening? What's your view of all that's going on here right now in both fintech and blockchain? We'll start in the same rotation. John, let's kick it off with you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think certainly this time during COVID has been a time of huge transformation just across the industry. One thing we're seeing from our side, so we do authentication, and we can authenticate people based on their implicit behavior, like the way that they hold their phone, the way they walk, these type of things. In this era now of masks and gloves, these traditional forms of authentication don't work as well. You can't really use facial recognition when people are wearing masks, and you can't really use fingerprints when people are using gloves. And there's an increasing need to remotely authenticate. With respect to blockchain, I think that identity and authentication has always been one of the biggest challenges to blockchain adoption. And the status quo, like the way that most people do this today is very cumbersome, and it's really limiting the applicability. So this is why we work with some crypto wallets and others to add extra levels of security without burdening the user and making a worse user experience. Things like brain wallets and cold storage and these type of things. The fact that somebody can get their SMS, their number hijacked via some SIM jacking, and then suddenly lose potentially millions of dollars is just really not, that's not a viable way to build an economy. And so just having more seamless forms of authentication, that's like, we've seen a huge uptick on our business because of this, related to COVID. And this is not a temporary thing. This is a permanent shift that I think that you're going to see moving forward.
Absolutely. And that idea of identity and authentication. So we've talked about this in previous episodes. DID, decentralized or digital identity, is also a huge area. And you're right, John. This stuff's great, but without some kind of protection, this is still a little nerving. It's a big roadblock for mass adoption, which we're going to get further into. Ken, to you, where are your thoughts on where everything is right now?
Yeah, well, I think Kyle, you really opened up the whole gauntlet here of opportunities that we're seeing. I think there are a few different themes that have emerged since mid-March. One is just extreme decentralization, remote, right? Nobody is looking at a person-to-person, face-to-face transaction anymore, right? Everything is remote, everything is through Zoom, everything is thousands of miles away. So I think that is a theme that it only took a global pandemic to drive, but it's definitely something that has been just on the precipice for years. Right? We've been talking about this idea of people don't need to be next to each other anymore. We're starting to see some of that really come to fruition. We're starting to see especially businesses act on it now, right? They've just been putting it off. It's always been something to do in the future, and now the future is now. So I think that, that's one major theme. And the other one that you kind of touched on, saying, is every company going to be a fintech company? Really like the idea, the term that's coming out now of, embedded fintech, embedded payments, right? Where fintech is hard, right? There's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of stuff that you need to know. You got to stay on the straight and narrow. Not every company is equipped to do that, right? If you are, a ride-hailing company, you're really good at matching up, drivers and riders, right? But you may not be so good at understanding, Reg E, Reg CC, the implications, cross-border money transmitter laws, and nor should you, right? So I think it's this idea of now mass and extreme collaboration and partnership, which is going to drive this, for lack of a better term, right, this embedded payments, embedded commerce, which I think is really an exciting trend.
Absolutely. Irina, to you, what are you seeing as kind of the current state of things?
Yes, interesting. I agree with what you guys are saying. When I think about what is happening now, I call it era of implementation. So when I think about blockchain industry and especially financial integration of blockchain industry, I think about what we've experienced with Bitcoin. And that brings me to the happening events. So I think of developments in the industry through what we have observed post happening events. And to me, the first post happening event was kind of a proof of concept of Bitcoin itself. Second was proof of concept of alts, which is alternative currencies. And now I believe that we are entering into an era of implementation. We see implementation across the border for many applications. For technology, it makes perfect sense. Financial technology and innovation in even regulatory structure have been kind of almost slowed down, and we have not been able to create true innovation and true evolution in finance because of the limitations we had with technology. And so blockchain simply, in my opinion, allows us to have self-authenticating source of truth, which for financial technology kind of solves majority of problems and thus allows a lot of opportunities for many different verticals, might that be from payment or application of blockchain technology in for exchanges, for internal use in banking, for creation new currency that brings us different values. It is all in that single kind of a step that blockchain allows us to do. And so I think that that's why we're seeing huge rise in DeFi, which is decentralized finance, as well as huge improvements in traditional finance. Like you said, Kyle, a lot of development have been happening for many years now in big institutions, and now things are starting to becoming released. And finally, the most important thing I think to mention and to think to investors, to entrepreneurs, is this message I have. We are now finally arriving to a point to where the implementation actually works. Up until now, we've been going through very high hypotheticals, right? It should work, but it have not proven to work. We are able to test it on one vertical, but it is not profitable yet. We yet still needed more proof of concept development in order to create implementation. And especially for finance, it is a key. Now we have regulators, they understand it, it's secure, it's safe, we have it accepted all over the world. Finally, we are there. And so I think that that's where opportunities are right now, is in that implementation.
Absolutely. And that idea of early acceptance, right? We're moving out of it's in a bubble of acceptance to, which is okay. That's how technology started, right? Beginning with a community, people in a similar mindset lead to testing and POCs to then beginning of adoption, right? Follow the crossing the chasm model. Gary, I'm too excited.
Yes.
Gary, to you, what are you seeing as the current state of things?
Yeah, so, on one thing I agree with John. I'm involved I co-founded a security company that's doing facial recognition. And there's some serious challenges with security, and we need to take a look at it. and not forget about it, because this whole idea of the SIM cards and the challenges that are taking place today are going to make people not trust the system, and we're going to go back to the old way of going in the bank to get our money if it doesn't get straightened out. So I really see several trends that are really interesting. One of the trends is hyper personalization, and essentially taking all the data that's out there to be able to really customize and make that experience really unique, almost in a one-to-one way with that client. So I think that's really important. That's one of the trends. I think conversational interfaces are critically important today. We need to do more of that. More of the chatbots are out there. And really key, I just had a conversation with one of the top execs at PwC, and we talked about robotic process automation. And that needs to take place sooner than later. And Kyle, these trends are taking place throughout, this isn't just limited to fintech, right? As we've talked about before. So, we need to take these robotic process automation and get out. Actually, I wrote an article about that too, Kyle, that I'll send to you. I had forgotten to forward it, but robotic process automation, and then mobile payments, the whole idea about mobile payments. And as I said, I'm really concerned about security. And I think that, we need to dive down deeper with that. And I'm not sure what the answer is, the ultimate answer, but in terms of, the combination of AI and blockchain, to make it smarter, faster, and more secure could be one of the keys, but we need to do something about that today.
Absolutely. We're going to get to security in just a moment. Before we do, Milton, to you, what are you seeing as kind of the current state of things? You play multiple sides of this as well. What are you seeing as the current state?
Well, it's very, very interesting to me, because I have just been observing for the past 3 years, and something that I see trending is that we are looking at something very familiar. The same thing that has happened to gold, right? We're seeing happening to Bitcoin. So this to me is very interesting, because I'm in OTC, so I deal with institutions, and I know, that they're looking to get into the space, and there's a problem that is a very unique opportunity for everyone else, which is that there is not enough Bitcoin. So they are interested in buying in high volumes, in big quantities, and they're not interested in buying, let's say, under $50 million worth of BTC, for instance. So what they're interested in is buying a big volume. So this is causing a demand behind the scene, because what they're trying to do right now is to solve a problem that the big institutions are having right now, that there is not enough Bitcoin available for them to stock up. So we see, people like Cash App, allowing people to deposit their Bitcoin into their Cash App wallets, or you see banks right now, they just gave them the green light to be able to be custodians to BTC. So what they're doing is they're trying to solve the problem by getting the people to just hand over their BTC. This is the same thing that happened with gold. Let's hold your gold in this bank. It's going to be safe. We're going to give you IOUs. So right now, smart contracts are locking up Bitcoin in their contracts, and they're giving out digital token representations, IOUs, of the value of your Bitcoin. It's the same thing that we saw in history with gold. And I see that this is a big opportunity for people to accumulate, who are not limited, or do not have, the desire to buy 100 million or more. This is a good opportunity for the smaller fish in the sea.
It is a great opportunity. It brings a lot of opportunity. But that being said, I want to make something very clear. While it's tons of opportunity, we're not dealing with, a simple application where people are playing a game. We're not dealing with a simple application where people are communicating with one another. We're talking about capital. We're talking about mega amounts of financial, not just information, right? But also money sitting somewhere. So when we look at both worlds, so let's look at fintech, and then we'll hold on to kind of decentralized finance. We'll sum it up. Decentralized finance has seen over 4 billion, not million, not 100,000, not $4, $4 billion over and growing, locked away in total value. We've also seen some very unfortunate events where things have been stolen. That's not just play money. That's people's actual tangible money and assets that they hold. All right. There is an issue of security. When you look at fintech, contactless payments, Apple just came out and said that they're going to be turning iPhones into payment terminals. So now you can actually use the iPhone as a payment gateway if you're someone with low service. This has to be secure. This has to be some kind of, I'm coming right to you, Irina, don't worry. There has to be some kind of thoughts around this to protect, because again, we're dealing with monetary items here, monetary possessions, if you will. And that takes a different level of tone and also a different level of thinking around security. So Irina, what are you seeing and where are your thoughts around security? Because this is definitely an area of opportunity, definitely. So let's dive into it. Security, you brought it up, let's go into it.
So the thing about it is that when we look at blockchain itself, I'm sorry, not blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, it has never been hacked. And it has kind of, if you think about it, the bounty for this hack is high. If you're able to do it, you walk away with the biggest, right, supply. The thing about it is that it is highly secure because it is truly decentralized. And because the way the growth cycle works and the Bitcoin becomes more partitioned, right, more fractionalized inside, it makes it more decentralized. So the more people buy it, different people all over the world, the more secure system becomes. The problem that we've experienced with hacking is that a lot of these blockchains are centralized. They might call themselves decentralized, but they are centralized. So they're vulnerable. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I think we need to decouple those two and understand that what we believe and see that works comes from decentralized networks. Now we also see that there are some reasons to have centralized networks and blockchains as well, but decentralized network have proven. And when regulators talk and think about it, it is the security of this technology is that they using as a proof of concept, right? When they agreeing to moving forward with application into financial technology. Because remember, guys, the layer of technology must be approved in financial products in kind of on a deep layer from regulators. You're not going to just go and I'm going to be a bank. You got to get licensed, and it's a whole problem. Trust me, because I've built a bank, I built exchanges. I know how it feels, and there's no whatever. The only way you can do it without kind of a government is decentralized. That's all. Otherwise, you have to go through all the regulatory infrastructure. You have to go through all the licensing. So I think when we think about the security, we have to think of this opportunity of seeing, okay, how can we use a layer of decentralized technology to improve our financial products? And also, how do we then use technology like AI and others to make sure that our centralized networks can be as secure as possible? I believe anchoring is a great way for verification, but it still does not provide security to your centralized network, right? That's kind of when I think about the security. I think that there's no magic solution for anything. Everybody exposed, everybody gets hacked. Governments get hacked, big government organizations get hacked, I mean, think about it, who hasn't gotten hacked yet, right? And some of them get hacked and we never find out, ever, right? And so I think that the most important thing that the promise of a blockchain brings is that it is decentralized. And so how do you create that, I think, is the solution for key. If you can apply that golden something into your centralized platform, you have something solid. But it hasn't been done or solved.
Well, and we're still in early days. This is the first and second innings. John, I'm coming right to you on this. What further to add? I mean, this is your world. Yeah,
I mean, I think the key, it's, as we heard earlier, this is like the key there is, this balance between security and usability and user experience. I mean, you can make these things, in terms of your wallet and your crypto assets, you can make it secure by, you put everything in cold storage, you put it in some safety deposit boxes somewhere, split it across multiple of them. That at that point is gonna be pretty secure, other than if you have like some type of 51% attack or, some type of attack on the infrastructure. But like, that's not really very usable, and it's not easy to transact when you're doing that. And then ultimately that's, unless you're just using this as a store of asset, if you actually want to use this to transact, you need something that's going to be more usable. And so this is, and then how to strike that balance, how to then have a system that is very usable, easy to use, not only among a small group of crypto enthusiasts, but just the world at large, while still maintaining security. I think that's one of the key challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I see everyone shaking their heads. Ken, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think John makes some really good points here, and to me, I like to take the conversation a little bit away from just kind of technical security, right,
Please.
to the wider field of trust, right? Is trusting in the infrastructure, trusting in the transaction, trusting in the parties, and right, to me, right, in financial services, technology has never been the problem, right? It's always people, right? People are always the problem. Like with most of the world. So, how do we deal with that, right? And so, while we could safeguard, a particular wallet by, doing cold storage, right? And, decentralizing makes it, I don't know, uninteresting to attack any particular single wallet, as opposed to hitting, a centralized store. But to John's point, right, it's the fungibility, the usability, then right, we have to balance that, because if you're adding too much friction, it gets really hard to actually say that it's a general purpose payment vehicle, right? So this is right, all the things that we're balancing right now. And personally, right, from my perspective, I look back at the four-party model, right? I think they got it right. Right. I mean, there are entities involved with, conferring trust, because, as we all know, right, cash is, good old, coin and cash, right, is ultimately secure, right? I mean, like I say, you can throw it into a safe deposit box. I don't have to worry about anyone hacking it. Totally unhackable, right? Doesn't disappear. But when I use it, right, how do I know that the thing in the box that I just bought is actually going to work, right? And so it's, the full transaction life cycle, and right, that 0.01% of times where I'm getting scammed, right? What's my recourse, right? And if my recourse is, oops, only transact with people that I know and trust, we've just killed global commerce.
You're absolutely right. And Gary, I see you shaking your head as well. I mean, anything else to add on that? I mean, data is also one of these things.
Listen, I've heard about this since I was in undergraduate. You always have challenge take place where you come up with a security solution to stop something, and the bad guys are always finding somebody better to be able to break it. I mean, that was 30 some years ago, right? So, I mean, this is just the way it is. And so coming up with all these countermeasures and measures and all that, I mean, we're eventually going to hack it. So, I mean, getting ahead of it is absolutely right. And it's how long are we able to stay ahead? You know, in terms of the balancing act, I also, you know, you got one side of it, it's just like the internet. In 10 years ago, people said, well, if you want to really be safe, just go offline and don't connect. And what? You know what I mean? So if we don't want to do e-commerce, to Ken's point, if we don't want to transact, you're right. There's all kinds of things that are out there. There's all kinds of challenges, and you don't know what you're going to get. It's like Forrest Gump. It's like a box of chocolates. This thing is, you know, I think trust into being able to identify, have some reasonable knowledge of that person. And maybe it's taken a viewpoint. It's not one, you know, direct in. Maybe it's a full scan of it, you know, a 360-degree view to be able to figure out, can I really trust that person from all kinds of different ways? Maybe that's the answer in terms of going forward, but something's got to be done. And I think that, you know, the good news is we've made a lot of advancements in terms of security. Well, I had a conversation, the former CSO of Apple's on my board, and we have these conversations frequently. He said that, you know, the security measures, as I said earlier, keep getting better, but the bad guys keep getting better too. Mm-hmm. And if they got a big box of Bitcoin somewhere that they can access, and I mean, Irina, if somebody's listening to this conversation today, they're going to be thinking they hit Fort Knox, right? So, you know, so it's going to happen, and I think, you know, we just got to keep doing a job of staying ahead of the bad guys. That's it. It's not going to change. We can go. This argument has been happening for thousands of years.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, Irina's like, yes, it has. It has. I'm with you. I mean, here's the thing, though. So we've talked about the current state, security, and let's say trust really gets solved. We start to make that progression, and I believe we are. Right? There's so much happening. People are shifting away from certain traditional or previously used, you know, as we talked about in our last episode, looking to the past to jump forward as things may not have worked. Was the wrong time, wrong place. Now it's the right time, right place. As things move forward, right? Trust gets better, security gets better. Where do we go from here? You know, right now, again, I mentioned decentralized finance. DeFi is exploding. It's providing new areas of opportunity for income. It's providing new applications for us, microloans, new services. We've got the virtual economy that's starting to rise up where people are able to go into, thank you, Milton. People are able to jump into games, something we saw years and years ago, but even as not too recent as World of Warcraft, and actually generate income that they can use in the real world, right? We have people doing yield farming, people doing virtual farming, virtual real estate and renting of that real estate, anywhere from $25,000 to $200,000 a year they're making on this. We've got personal tokens that are starting to be talked about. We have this whole world of a virtual economy and a tokenized economy. We've got new applications, we've got new infrastructure. Where do we go from here? Each of you are experts in this space, whether it be at the currency level, so digital currencies to CBDCs, whether it be at the data or the infrastructure layer, or it's at the application. I'd love to hear from each of you. Where do we go from here? And then I got one more big question for all of us. So John, coming back to you, and then Milton, and we'll go around. John, where do we go from here? Where do things advance going for the next 12 to 18?
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now is a time of opportunity. I mean, this has really accelerated a lot of the digital transformation that's been happening, and there's going to be winners and losers during this time. There's going to be like the ones that are going to be the winners are going to be ones that are identify these opportunities and are able to jump on top of them. The ones that are not going to be the winners are going to be ones that are going to be stuck on the status quo and continue to do things the way that they were. You know, I think the biggest opportunities are going to be ones that are going to enable this new form of commerce. Where people are now naturally remote, it's naturally more global. You know, the fact is, like, when you're hiring people now, when you're interacting with people over Zoom, it doesn't really matter if they're in the same city. You can now really hire from anywhere. And you know, remittances, how do I pay those people? Well, I mean, that now, like, that's, and those things get really complex, like in the kind of old world. In the new world, that like if you're enabling these type of things and doing these in a seamless way, those are going to be solutions that win. And I think the other piece is that you're right. This is not a technology problem. It's a human problem. You know, whether it's about trust or authentication or payments or transactions, all these things, these are ultimately human issues. And so I think that solutions that focus on that, that understand the human element and then able to then take that into account, like not like, well, ideally everybody would operate like this, but oh no, here's the way that people actually want to interact. Here's the way that they want to transact commerce and everything else. And so then adapting the technology to meet them rather than forcing the people to then adapt to the limitations of technology. I think those are going to be the big opportunities going forward.
Absolutely. We as humans make mistakes all the time. Technology seems to get better and better, but we continue to make mistakes nonetheless. Milton, to you, where do you see as the areas of opportunity in the next 12 to 18 months?
12 to 18 months, right now, the best opportunities is to really keep an eye on what the banks and institutions are doing, keeping, an eye on, what's happening with Bitcoin, because the thing is, a lot of the attention is being taken away, and it's for a reason. So a lot of people who are investing in alternative coins or getting involved in those projects, they're taking away, because we all know what we need. We all need something we can trust. People have been talking about trust this whole conversation. We trust the centralized institutions. We no longer trust the centralized institutions. So something has to happen, and something will happen. We have the technology today. We have Bitcoin. It works. It's unhackable right now. It hasn't been hacked. There's advances. It keeps progressing. There are people who are very powerful, very, very, very resourceful, who want this to work. It's going to work. So all the attention should be on everything that everyone has talked about today. Is we need something that we can trust, something that's secure, and we need to build infrastructure that is going to benefit everyone, not just the few. And I think that the creators or the creator of Bitcoin and blockchain specifically, have had this in mind, and it's working, and it's actually beneficial for your everyday person, because now you can leverage and get loans. You can do a lot of things being in developing countries like Venezuela. Singapore is all out fintech. They're doing some great things over there. Africa, Senegal, here in Germany, where I am right now. It's inevitable. We're getting to that point where we're going to have decentralized finance, and we just need to wait to see what DeFi does, because a lot of people remember the DAO hack. A lot of people remember all the security problems with DeFi, and if it's all about trust, and it already has a history of or a reputation of it's been hacked before, or it's cracked before, or there's a possibility that it can, people are not going to support it. It's going to take time, just like Bitcoin. No one supported Bitcoin. No one trusted Bitcoin, but it's over 10 years later, and it's been reliable.
So 2 things. You said one of my favorite words, infrastructure. I'm all about it. Second, decentralized finance. Let's talk about something real quick in between before I get to the rest of you guys. The internet was not built in a day. Nothing is built in a day. Everything takes time, right? The idea of leveraging blockchain-based technology or just decentralization, right? We're in the early days of this all, and we're in the early days of this next generation of the web. We can all sit on this call and say we remember the days at the beginning of Web 2.0 and social media. And now we live our lives on it, including the new social media, Zoom. But as we look to Web 3 and what that will bring, it's a whole new world that's going to take a ton of time. Decentralized finance, key thing here to remember. For us, we live and breathe and eat this. For the rest of the world, this is just known as the future of financial technology or the future of finance, right? So what is happening in DeFi right now, a lot of that we see. As investors, we need to pay attention to that because this is where we're going to place the bets for those picks and shovels, for those future applications, for that future infrastructure. But what we're seeing also, as we have not seen in the past, is that when these issues have arisen, particularly around decentralized finance, so we apologize for picking on you, and dApps, is the community comes together faster and comes together in a more supportive way to solve some of these problems, spinning up new solutions, new ideas, and trying to patch things up quickly. So the rest of the world, where the issues of lying and trust right now comes in Ken's world, and that's around traditional fintech, and what we refer to as fintech, moving into these areas of contactless payments, moving into peer-to-peer transactions. Remember, until about 5 years ago, in the United States, checks, handwritten checks were still commonly used. We were just getting introduced to chips in our credit cards when Europe was having that in place for 10 plus years. And Asia was driving around mobile everything and contactless everything. So a lot of this, to John's point, it is human. It is us catching up to technology. So while we look at decentralized finance and we're leveraging that as a big term right now, there's so much more into that. The future of finance will have to incur a lot of trust at all levels, central and decentralized. Just a point for all of us to remember. Milton, great point though as well. Irina, I want to come to you. Gary, I saw you shaking your head, and then Ken, you're going to be the last point on this one. So Irina, to you.
So future, I think three kind of major pillars. First, there is a cryptocurrency, which is what Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a bunch of other currencies are. Now, currencies are not tokens, but that's a different subject, right? So for the cryptocurrencies, the most important event happened in May, post happening now. So buckle up and, Bitcoin, more Bitcoin. That's what I have to say. Full disclosure, I do not have a lot of Bitcoin because I spent money building infrastructure for what we know blockchain now. Okay, so instead of buying Bitcoin, I was spending my money building Bitcoin exchange in 13 in US. Foolish errand. Lots of lessons learned, but fool's errand back then. Anyhow, so that's a cryptocurrency. It will process, it will continue going that way. Now it will spread. We're seeing now centralized government currencies. We will see how it goes. It's not really different in any way, except it gives more power to government to be able to trace how and where exactly you spend your money. So that's one aspect of it. So we have this decentralized currency, that should be very lovely for everybody. Now then we have token economics. Kyle, just like you said, applications of rewards within the systems, and that can be within the same system like a game, or it can be cross-border enterprises, right? Because depending what kind of agreements you have between the companies, so we have a lot of growth and adoption in that. And then of course, the technology itself, right? So that has nothing to do with currency. That is not gonna be anything to do with token economics. This is just an optimization of systems. And that's where we're seeing the biggest growth. Remember, because the first post happening was the cryptocurrency proof of concept. Second was altcoins / tokens and kind of applications to businesses. Now it is an implementation. So it has nothing to do with what people think about blockchain and Bitcoin, right? Now, the reason that works is because of this. It eliminates the need for trust. So now, we have a security, right? So before I buy a security from you, I have to have about 30 something intermediaries in between, making sure that I am who I am, the asset that I hold, and all these intermediaries, each of them have to profit. So now, because we have this trustless technology, it allows us to eliminate so many intermediaries. Okay, so it makes things cheaper, it connects it better. If it doesn't eliminate intermediaries, it allows them to carry a lighter load, so money moves faster. We do not have to have a lag in the system, which is how the traditional finance works. It's very laggy. People sit on money for a long time. So I think that that's where if you're an investor, think of 3 pillars. Make sure that you kind of diversify those pillars. But when you're thinking about exponential growth and opportunities for future, other than you playing with the currency trading, right? So I'm not talking about currency. It is the application of blockchain technology into traditional finance, okay, is where you want to see kind of opportunities.
I'm with you. I'm not going to refute anything there. I'm going to go to Ken because that teased you up, Ken. We're moving into traditional finance. Give us your thoughts on areas of opportunity for the next 12 to 18.
Yeah, so one thing, Kyle, I just want to correct you a little bit. You said, 5 years ago, checks were, still common. Latest research, right? 97% of businesses still use checks, right?
Thank you for the correction.
Right, use more than ACH, wires, cards, cash, Bitcoin, Ethereum combined for business payments, right?
Wow.
So splash a little bit of cold water here, right? Yeah, we've been trying to modernize financial infrastructure for about 78 years, and so I think as much as we would want things to really move quickly, 12 to 18 months is an incredibly short horizon to think that we're going to have massive change, right? There's just so much going on. There's just, we have 330 million people in this country, right? Again, just going back to checks, right? We have $25 trillion a year being conducted on paper rectangles. It's going to take a while to move that into something that really, is more modern. And just kind of the way that we get there is, for investors, right, knowing that you hold, Ether or Bitcoin, right, is great. For common usage as a currency, nobody cares, right? I want to look in my, B of A bank account, and I want to see, I have $1,000, I have $500, whatever I have in my account, and I want to be able to go back tomorrow and see how much that is, right? So what we need to do is really, if we're talking, right, that decoupling of the currency from the blockchain infrastructure, right? The currency, right? The SEC got it right, right? It is a commodity, right? It is something that's out there, bought and sold and traded. And, it's orange juice futures, right? So that's great for that group. As a currency, right, it needs to be so deep down that you and I never think about it, right? We don't know if something is being transacted over blockchain, over Fedwire, over whatever. And the one thing that is really, Irina, you brought up a good point, right? That there's lags in transactions. Most of the large banks in this country are still running an IBM mainframe core that was built in 1982, and they will never get off of it, right? Because it's a $4 billion investment to upgrade your core. So we just have to accept the reality, right? It is, change is coming, right? And it's pushing, and there's momentum. 12 to 18 months is insanely aggressive to think that we're going to have a watershed moment.
I love the argument. I love it. Gary, to you, close us out. What do you see as the next 12 to 18?
Well, you know, Kyle, I remember in 1991, I was working for Scott McNeely at Sun Microsystems. I'll never forget this. So I said, I'd like to see websites, and I got computer paper literally with 3,000 websites on it. This is a true story. There was no browsers, and I was on a Spark station. And I'll never forget that. And we are at the same point today because the same things we're talking about today, what is it? I had the paper, then we had browsers. It's ease of use. We are now democratizing fintech opportunities around the world. That's what we're talking about. It's making the world a different place. The internet had one layer. Now we've got the other layer where we're really, truly democratizing. The challenge is some people aren't willing to accept it. It's going to happen. It is happening today, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing cross-border transactions. We're doing it. So now the technologies go around it, 12 to 18 months. I said things like hyper-personalization, getting closer to that customer, because we're not there yet. We've got to be able to do it. We got to make that customer, as Ken said, feel comfortable. We got to make it transparent. This is what's just happening. So chatbots that are really, transparent and personal. We also got to talk about robotic processes, because guess what? We got to take away jobs that are just redundant, and we've got to go down through and make those jobs use so areas like artificial intelligence can go down through and be utilized. I mean, it's going to happen. It is happening. And I've said this before, we are in the middle of that transition. I'll never forget, in the beginning of the 20th century, somebody said that I'm never going to buy a Model T. And the reason I'm not going to buy a Model T, because I have a horse and I know the horse eats food and I know I can get in my cart and ride. This is true, right? We're in that stage. This is a revolution, as John said. This is a tidal wave coming in. This digital transformation, Kyle, that I've talked about, I write about extensively, is happening. We're in the middle of it, and some people are uncomfortable with this digital transformation. Seriously, we have to adapt to it, because if people adapt, they're going to win. Decentralization, cross-border transactions, et cetera. So the opportunity, this is a greenfield opportunity. And I'm sure John, is a PhD from Stanford and working with the engineering students, knows this all too well. He hears about it every day. And by the way, if you have anybody who needs some help, give me a call.
There you go. Couldn't have painted a better picture myself. We didn't even get a chance to start talking about robo-advisors and the idea of chatbots in the finance world, as that's been a big movement as well. And, the idea of...
Kyle, listen I'll tell you a direct example. This is today. This morning, I'm buying a house, and I'm a private client of the bank. I can't get the goofballs to call me up. I'm serious. I want to spend money to buy a house, and I'm so pissed off, I'm going to pay cash instead of taking a loan. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, I want service, and now I'm a private client, and this is the kind of service as a private client. Give me a chatbot. I don't care. I want to do the deal.
Well, and I agree. And a lot of it, to Ken's point, a lot of these institutions right now, and just because of the way things are currently in the world, are very, very backed up. So let's take that aside. One thing that does get interesting around the introduction of bots is that empathy, is that new level of tone that needs to be implemented, not just yes, no, right, left. There is something that needs to still be added that's missing. But again, another area of opportunity for our investors. Gentlemen and ladies, we are now at time. We're actually over time. So audience, thank you for staying with us. I want to come around for everyone's quick closing thoughts and where they can find you online, so we can all wrap up and get back to this industry and see what's already changed from what we've talked about in the past hour. So with that being said, Milton, I'm going to start with you. You're the latest, the newest on the show. Where can everyone find you online? Any quick closing thoughts that you may have?
So closing thought would be just take advantage of this time period and figure out what it is and how it is that you're going to, add value to this new world that we're living in, and, just create. And you can find me at LinkedIn, Milton Guarderas, or you could follow my travel blog. I'm traveling for the next 10 years. So, it's at our.travelblog at Instagram. So
All right.
thanks.
There
I
you go.
appreciate
Next
everybody
10
here.
years. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Next 10 years, dude. Best of luck. It's a tremendous journey. We'll definitely follow you and check you out.
I just came back from Spain, so like every time that they lift COVID restrictions,
Super quick.
me and my family go.
Okay, well, there you go. Everyone check out Milton online. John, to you, quick closing thoughts. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as we move forward, then a lot of this technology, it's going to become more natural and just more human. I mean, for the longest time, humans had to adapt to the limitations of technology. I think technology has now reached the point where many of these interactions can become much more natural and much more human, and that's the way that things are going to go. You can find me at LinkedIn, John Whaley, and you can go to our website, unify.id. If you're interested at all in seamless authentication, behavioral authentication, for lots of use cases, point of service terminals, unlocking doors, like physical doors, physical access, e-commerce, crypto, any of those areas. We have great solutions in all those spaces.
Awesome. And to those who just blasted up my DMs and my text messages on getting access to some of those potential Stanford engineering students, as Gary called out as well, reach out to John. John, I'll follow up with you, as a few people did reach out to me, so we'll make those connections for you. Gary, where can everyone find you, and also your quick closing thoughts?
Yeah. So you can reach me. I have a venture studio called Get Shit Done Venture Studios, GSD VS. So you can reach me online, LinkedIn, Gary Fowler. I'd love to hear from you. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, John sees it, Ken sees it, Milton, Kyle, Irina. I mean, we all see this opportunity. Get out there and do it. Don't be the person that looks back and says, I wish I would have done it, because hindsight is always 20/20. Get out, think about where people need to go. Think about the technologies that need to be decentralized. Think about security solutions, and you will move forward.
Absolutely. And get shit done. Keep it stupid simple as well. Words of Gary, AI is the new electricity. I got to drop all three of them. If I don't, it doesn't feel like a normal day and episode here.
Thank
Ken, Ken, do you quick closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you?
Thanks. Folks can find me, Ken at snapcheck.co, or on LinkedIn. So probably the only Ken Kruszka out in the world. So it's pretty easy to find me with a little Google search. I guess, my closing thoughts is just remember, we are living in an absolutely amazing time, right? This is the golden age of fintech. Never before have we seen this confluence of technology, of new ideas, new paradigms. I mean, for God's sake, the head of the OCC just came from Coinbase, right? This is a whole new paradigm shift, right? And we just need to be ready for it.
Absolutely. And there's so much more to come. This is the beginning, as I've said many times. We're not just in the first innings, we're in the beginning of this big wave. So much more to come. And with that, Crypto Superwoman, Irina, close us out. Your last closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you?
Yes. Again, research what halvening means so you understand, and look at Bitcoin. Integration is a big deal. A lot of it have been already happening for many, many years. It's just becoming available for information for most people now. So it seems that it's sudden, but it has not been sudden. So we're getting there. If you're a space company, or if you're an investor who cares about space or wants to know more about space, contact me. If you are looking for integration of blockchain technology into a traditional finance, I am your crypto superwoman, and you can basically Google that and it will give you all the links to everything. So find me wherever works for you.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, all, thank you so much for your time today and going over. Definitely appreciate your insights. As I mentioned, this industry, or these industries, are rapidly changing. From the technologies that were used to the application to the adoption, slow and fast nonetheless, we are seeing a huge opportunity. As Ken said, this is the golden era of fintech. And Gary mentioned, don't look back. Get started, get going now. All right, there's so much to be had at the infrastructure and picks and shovels level, all the way up to the consumer level and purchasing and buying, as we talked on previous episodes. One thing to stay consistent, that's security. What to make private, what to make secure, to give that area a necessary added trust that we're all looking for. With that, to your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Please reach out if you'd love to be on future episodes as an investor. Thank you, Irina, Milton, Gary. If you'd like to be on the episode, Ken, thank you. We'd love to have you. Entrepreneurs, feel free to reach out if you'd like to pitch us as investors in the audience. We'd welcome you. And also to Elena and to the entire LA Token team for making VCTV possible, a big thank you, and bringing it to your devices, your screens, anywhere in the world. With that, I'm Kyle Ellicott, your host. We'll be back here tomorrow to sum up all that we've talked about and get a big sense on what's happening around the world from leading investors in just investing in general. We're going to talk about everything. Where's money going? Where is it not? What's happening in different regions around the world? Where should you not be building? What do you need to know to make investments, start building, and be successful in either area that you choose? With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. See you back here.